Hello there and welcome back to the So You Pick Job Edition, where we have a look at your toolkit, how to get your jobstone, your job gauge, and how it all works. Now this time we are going to be having a look into the Machinist, the first new ranged DPS job that was added to the game with the Heavensward expansion. Now, Machinists focus on dealing range damage using a combination of firearms enhanced with various attachments and can deploy mechanical turrets to help them on the battlefield. Overall, it's a very cool job. I do like it very much. So, all of the expansion jobs work differently to the start classes because none of them start at level 1. They all start at different levels based on what expansion they're from. Now, Heavensward jobs start at level 30, Stormbloods start at level 50, Shadowbringers are level 60, and lastly, Endwalkers start at level 70. So when you unlock the job, you're kind of thrown in at the deep end because you suddenly have a whole bunch of skills and abilities instantly at your disposal. So it can be a little bit daunting to start off with, trying to figure out what everything does and how everything fits together. So come join us as we jump into the Machinist. You all set, Rin? Good. Always nice to see. Let's get stuck in. Right, guys. So in order to unlock the Machinist job, you will need the following. You will need to own the Heavensward expansion and have a combat job at level 50 or higher. However, the Heavensward jobs specifically have the extra requirement of you needing to have reached the city called Foundation, which is the starter city for the Heavensward content itself. So you will need to have completed all of the base game's story content, all the way up to this quest right here. Now once that's done, you will come here to pick up this quest. Now finish his quest and you will be the proud owner of the Machinist jobstone, your first carbine and 2 pieces of level 30 gear, which will drop straight into your armory chest. Now to change the Machinist job, you will be going down into the character menu down here, like so. And unlike the start classes, you'll be equipping the carbine weapon, and the jobstone will equip automatically along with it, as the expansion jobs work a little bit differently. Now for speed, I would suggest selecting the recommended gear and setting up a gear set while you're in here. If you don't know how to do that, check the card popping up now to my short guide on it. But if you're all sorted, congratulations, you're now an official Machinist with a full but messed up hotbar. Now personally, I would remove everything from the hotbar and start fresh because they do tend to play stuff randomly as it throws it all at you. So to do that quickly, you can use the following macro, which will remove everything from that hotbar. So make sure you pick the right one. So this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. First, we're going to have a look at your starter toolkit at level 30. Then we're going to have a look at how it works, and then move on to the rest of the toolkits and how they all add into your basic toolkit. Right guys, so now that we've unlocked Machinist, we are going to just jump straight into the starter toolkit. Starting with Split Shot. Now, Split Shot will deliver an attack with a potency of 140 and is the first part of your 3 skill main damage combo, which leads us into Slug Shot. Now, Slug Shot is the second part of your combo, and it will deliver an attack with a potency of 100. If you do it as part of the combo, which you should always try to do, that potency will be boosted to 210. Next up, we have Hot Shot. Now, Hot Shot is an off-global cooldown ability, and it will deliver an attack with a potency of 240. So use that whenever it's off cooldown, just for that lovely tasty damage. Now, next we will get Reassemble. Now, Reassemble is an ability which will guarantee that your next weapon skill will be a critical direct hit. Basically a damage booster. It's a damage booster ability. Use that whenever you can. Next up, we will get Ghost Round. Now that is another off global cooldown ability, and that will deliver an attack with a potency of 120, and it has a maximum charge of 2, so you can use that twice in quick succession. And next up, you get your first AoE ability, which is Spread Shot. Now, Spread Shot will deliver an attack with a potency of 140 to all enemies in a cone shape in front of you. Really handy for when you have a pack of mobs of 3 or more. Next up, we will get Clean Shot. Now, Clean Shot is the third part of your main DPS combo. So it'll be Split Shot, Slug Shot, then Clean Shot. And that will deliver an attack with a potency of 100. If you do that as part of the combo, it will boost that to 270. Nice and cool stuff. And then lastly, we get Hypercharge. Now, Hypercharge ties into your basic job gauge, which is called your heat gauge. Now, how your job gauge works, by using certain weapon skills, you will generate heat in your weapon, and that will build up to a maximum of 100 points. However, when you reach 50 points, you will be able to use Hypercharge. Now, what Hypercharge does, it will grant you a overheated buff, which lasts for 8 seconds, and that increases the potency of your single target weapon skills by 20 points. So use that pretty much whenever you reach 50 points. Always worth it, just for that extra damage. Now, Hypercharge also ties into 2 skills that you get at a later point. Now, you can only use those 2 skills when you are under the effect of Hypercharge, and they are quite hard hitting. It is a cool mechanic, it is very cool. So now that we've had a look at the basic toolkit, let's jump into your basic rotation. It is fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Right guys, so your start rotation is super basic, as most of them are at level 30. Now for Machinist, you want to be starting off with a hot shot, straight into your split shot, slug shot, clean shot combo, so you can generate some points. Keep doing that until you hit 50 heat points, and whenever that happens, hit a hypercharge and keep going, just for that extra damage boost for now. Use Ghost Round when they are available, all extra damage. And then your reassemble does not work on Ghost Round, so I would hit that whenever it's available and use that on combo buffed Clean Shot, because that does the most damage. Nice and cool stuff, very straightforward, it's super simple. Now your AoE combo is even simpler. It is basically your spread shot, just spam that, getting yourself in a good position, ideally at the side of a pack so you can hit as many enemies as you can. Just spam spread shot. Like I said, very straightforward, not really a lot to teach with this one, just have fun. Right guys, so now we've had a look at the starter rotation and toolkit, we're going to dive into the level 30 to 50 toolkit. Now there's a couple of cool little things in here, starting with Heat Blast at level 35. Now Heat Blast will deliver an attack with a potency of 180 each time you use it, has a short recast timer, however can only be used when your firearm is overheated. So whenever you use Hypercharge, Heat Blast will be available to you. Now it is a hard hitting ability and you will want to be using that as much as possible in that 8-second Hypercharge window. Now it has the additional effect of reducing the cooldown timer of a Ghost Round by 15 seconds each time you use Heat Blast. So you want to be getting as many of those in as possible in that 8-second window. Because who doesn't love more ghost round shots. Right, so next up, at level 40, you will unlock 3 things. Your Rook Auto Turret, your Rook Overdrive, and the second part of your job gauge. Now we're going to jump into the job gauge first. It is called the battery gauge, and whenever you use Hot Shot and a comboed version of Clean Shot, you will generate battery power. Now once you hit at least 50 battery power, you can then deploy your Rook Auto Turret, which is a little floaty turret, and it will attack what you are attacking with a potency of 70 per hit. Now the minimum amount of battery that you need to deploy the turret is 50. However, if you have more power in your battery gauge when you deploy the turret, the longer the turret will hang out for, up to a maximum of 15 seconds. It's up to you if you want to just do it whenever your gauge reaches 50 and get it out shorter bursts a lot quicker, or if you want to hold off a little bit and have it out for a little bit longer. Probably works better for bosses that way. And when your Rook Auto Turret runs out of power, it will initiate a move called Rook Overdrive, which will explode the turret with a potency of 320. It's a good bit of damage whenever your turret leaves the battlefield. However, you can actually trigger that Rook Overdrive early, should you want to, by using the Rook Overdrive ability itself. Now the reason you would use Rook Overdrive early would be if you are in a position where the enemy that you're attacking isn't going to survive the amount of time left on your turret itself. So for example, if you have 15 seconds of time left on your turret and you know the boss is going to die in 10 seconds, not going to last the full 15 seconds, you can manually activate Rook Overdrive to get that big boom a little bit earlier so that you're not wasting a little bit of damage. Hopefully I explained that correctly and hopefully it made sense. It made sense in my head, but if you have any queries about it, do ask me in the comments section. Now next up is Wildfire. Now Wildfire is an interesting one because it's technically an attack, but it starts at 0 potency. Now what it actually does is it will cover your target in a slow burning pitch. Now that will last for 10 seconds. Now the Wildfire's potency will be increased by 100 points for each of your own weapon skills that you hit the enemy with in that 10 seconds. Now once you've used Wildfire, it will automatically change to Detonator. Now Detonator, similar to your Rook Overdrive, is there for if the enemy is not going to last the full 10 seconds, you can set off your Wildfire early just so you don't lose out on that damage. Hopefully I've explained that correctly. Quite a cool little mini game. It's a lot of machines play that game of how high can you actually get the amount of the Wildfire damage. And then lastly, level 50, you get Ricochet. Now Ricochet is basically the AoE version of Ghost Round. It will deal damage to all nearby enemies with a potency of 120 for the first enemy you hit, and 50% less for all remaining enemies. And like Ghost Round, it has a maximum of 2 charges. So basically in an AoE situation, use Ricochet. In single target, use Ghost Round. That one's fairly simple. Right guys, so your level 50 rotation, all the basics remain the same. You're still going to be generating resources with Hot Shot and your Clean Shot combos. That remains the same. Weaving in Ghost Barrels whenever you can. Still remains the same. Jobs are good. However, you now have 2 resources to manage. So you have the battery gauge and you have the heat gauge. Now battery gauge, very straightforward. Once you reach 50 points in your battery gauge, just throw out your Rook Auto Turret. It'll do its own little thing. Just go back to generating your battery gauge with your Clean Shot combos and Hot Shot whenever it's available. and try and keep that turret up as much as you can. So we'll flip through here, straight back out again, straight back into your clean shot combo spam. Nice and easy. So turret will sort itself out. Like I said earlier on, if you know that the enemy is not going to last the full time, or if you know the enemy's not going to last the full duration of your turret time, you can hit Rook Overdrive early just to get that little extra damage in. Now, heat gauge wise, with the introduction of Wildfire, you have two options. If you have Wildfire available, I would recommend hitting the Hypercharge straight into Wildfire and hitting them with as many heat blasts as possible. Nice and cool stuff. Does a good bit of damage. You can get quite a few hits in there to boost the Wildfire's damage and get a good chunk at the end of it. However, if you do not have Wildfire available, I would personally recommend, if you hit Hypercharge, Heat Blast, then hit a Ghost Round while the cooldown's on, and then alternate the two as much as possible. That way you are doing quite a few good bits of hits. Ghost Rounds do a lot of damage, and the Heat Blast, each use of Heat Blast will actually reset part of your cooldown timer on your Ghost Rounds. So you can actually get quite a few Ghost Rounds in if you time it right. That really is the single target rotation at level 50. Very straightforward, super simple. Now, your AoE one still remains mostly spread shot. Just hit them with as many spread shots as you can get. Get yourself in a position on the side of them, ideally, so you can hit as many of them as you can, because it's like a cone effect. Keep on going. And likewise, when you get to 50 points of heat, likewise, when you get to 50 points of heat, hit that hypercharge button and just continue on with the spread shot spam. And that, last but not least, use your ricochets whenever they become available. And that is the level 50 rotation for Machinist. It is super basic. It is still a lot of fun. And from 50 to 60, you get a few extra little toys that are rather cool. I do like Machinist's toys. You get more and more of them the higher level you get with them. That has been the level 50 rotations. Now we're going to dive straight into the 50 to 60 toolkit. Starting with level 52, the auto crossbow. Now, auto crossbow is essentially the AoE version of Heat Blast. You can only, like Heat Blast, you can only use it when you are under the overheated buff, and it will deliver an attack with a potency of 140 to all enemies in a cone before you. So that will go into your AoE rotation quite nicely. And it looks cool to boot. It looks very cool. And next up, level 54, you get Heated Split Shot. Now that is a straight up upgrade to your regular Split Shot. It has an increased potency of 180. It will still generate heat gauge, and it is still the first part of your clean shot combo. Very cool ability. Has a very cool looking new animation to go with it. So look forward to that one. Now next up, level 56, you will get Tactician. Now, Tactician is Machinist's first and only support ability. Now, it will reduce the damage taken by yourself and your nearby party members by 10%, and that will last for 15 seconds. And you can recast that every 2 minutes. However, for the most part, you will be just using Tactician whenever it's off cooldown, unless you are in a group with either a bard or a dancer. because both bards and dancers have their own version of this skill doing the same thing. Now, the damage reduction buff does not stack with their skills, so you have to be mindful of not wasting your wasting tactician. So just bear that in mind if you are in a group with one of those other jobs. Now, next up, level 58, you will get drill. Now, drill is a hard-hitting weapon skill which will deliver an attack with a potency of 580, and you can recast that every 20 seconds. It is a very cool ability. It has a cool animation, it hits like a truck, and it can be buffed with reassemble. Now, this is the point where you will start to use reassemble exclusively with drill, and use that whenever it's off cooldown. And lastly, level 60, you will get heated slugshot. Now, it is a straight up upgrade to your regular slugshot. Works exactly the same way as it did before. It will still generate heat, it just has an increased potency of 100 or 260 if you do it as part of the combo. Nice and easy one to end you off with. Right guys, so that has been the level 60 toolkit. Now to dive to the training dummy to see how it all fits together. Right guys, so we've come back to the training dummy to have a look at how the new tools fit into your level 50 rotation. Now the rotation itself, the basics remain the same. You'll still be generating heat gauge and battery gauge with hot shot and your regular clean shot combos like so. When you reach 50 battery points, throw out your turret and keep going. Nice and straightforward on that front. The turret itself doesn't really change until much later. Use it whenever you can. Now your heat gauge, again you have two options when you reach 50 heat gauge. If you have wildfire available to you, hit a hypercharge straight into wildfire and hit them with as many heat blasts as you can. And if you dare, try and squeeze in a reassembled drill as well. If you can't squeeze it into the hypercharge window, just use drill whenever it's available and buff it with reassembled whenever that's available at the same time. Nice and cool stuff. Still use your ghost round whenever it's available. Now your other heat blast option, if you don't have wildfire available, again lead off with a hypercharge, heat blast, ghost round, heat blast, ghost round. Alternate the two until you run out of heat. And again, if you have reassembled available, reassemble your drill shot just for that extra damage. Very straightforward and some cool additions to the job. Now your AoE combo remains pretty much the same. You will still be using your spread shot to generate heat gauge. Now when you reach 50 heat, you will still want to be hitting the hypercharge, but instead of going back to split shot, you will be using your auto crossbow, spamming that as much as possible. And again, using ricochet whenever they're available. Nice and easy. But you want to try and get your auto crossbow up as much as possible when you're in an AoE situation, because there's a lot more damage than you spread shot. Overall, Machinist is a simple rotation, but it has a lot of cool factor, some cool abilities in there, and does a decent amount of damage. Right guys, so that's been our first look into the Machinist job. Overall, I do really enjoy playing as a Machinist, just for that extra cool factor. It is a cool looking job, does a good amount of damage, and it's just generally fun to play. Generally fun. Which is kind of what you want from a job, really. You want it to be fun, otherwise what's the point? Oh, again, thank you Rin for all the effort you've put into this. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. You are looking quite cool though. You're looking very, very army based. Oh, showing off now, are you? You're just showing off. Alright. Alright then. Sorry, and again, thank you for your help with this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and you found it informative. If you have, let me know. If you have any more questions, do let me know as well. We will be happy to answer any questions you have. I'm not entirely sure what job's coming next. I haven't really decided yet. I may put up another poll, so look out for that. See which one people actually want next. There's only a few more to go. So again, thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you are new here, feel free to come hang out, come check out some other stuff we've got going on. We would love to have you here. If you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you again for all the support. It is much appreciated. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. And you all know what's coming. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. And as always, I shall see you on the flip side. Bye bye.